Thanks, Alex. I want to take you all through a little trip through time. Now, how many... Shout out to Urbery, where I work as CTO, and the DMZ, where we're based. How many of you remember this slide? This was shown by Mike Sorbinis in January here. This is one of those questions I thought I'd like to actually follow up on that, because in fact, I believe the answer is yes, and it's a very big yes, and I want to prove it to you by showing you, because I only have 5 minutes, I want to show you 5 examples of when we've actually done that before, right here in Toronto. That's right, the first personal computer was created right here in Toronto, 1974. Now, you might think, well, why have I never heard of this? Well, here's how Spacing magazine described it. How Toronto invented the PC, then forgot about it. Well, the fact is, this is actually normal in technology. The pioneers get forgotten because, you know, things grow and change, and that's just normal. Yeah, first PC, Toronto. Next pioneer. This is Steve Mann, now Professor Steve Mann at the University of Toronto. Now, in the late 1970s, he was in a high school in Hamilton, and his family actually had a personal computer. So he put it in a backpack, and he built stuff like this to fit on his head and connected them through cables. And this was so that he could actually have better vision. And he's still doing it today. Here's one of his later devices, but he still does this like today, every day. I want to go to the next one. I don't have a slide for it. When the World Wide Web was new, it was basically static pages. The pages were in fact called documents. In fact, those of you who are web developers know that they're still called documents. But then a Torontonian named Carolyn Burke did something very different. She created this website where there was all kinds of new content being added. What a concept. And here it is, the first blog, Toronto, 1995. Called Carolyn's Diary, carolyn.org. It is still there today, so you can look at it. Now, a reporter at the Globe and Mail named Robert Everett Green saw this. He realized just what a big revolution this was, and he wrote about it. And he also contacted Carolyn and said, I'm going to make you famous. So here she is on the cover of US News magazine. Apologies for the really bad resolution. All her copies are packed in boxes right now because she's just moved to a little village in Newfoundland called Happy Adventure. So how many of you ever had a Simpatico email address? Whoa, a lot of you. That's great. Here's mine. So why would, now Simpatico is actually still, I would argue, the country's largest internet service because it continues on with names like Bell Internet and Telus Internet. But what was world first about it? It certainly wasn't the first internet service. But in the early days, and I was on Canada's very first public internet service, it was called Internex Online. And it was here in Toronto, and in fact, Carolyn Burke did her blog on that service. But the problem was, in those days, you had to be really techie. I was, Carolyn was, and well, it was really hard. If all the ISPs were built by geeks and for geeks, until one day, this launched. Simpatico was the world's first consumer internet service. This is first time you could get onto the internet from home without being techie. If you had a computer and knew how to use it, you could get on the internet. First time. Again, pioneer, but nobody knows, because what happened was that everybody else just followed. 6 months after we launched, AT&T, for instance, AT&T in the United States launched their WorldNet service, and it was basically a clone of Simpatico. Fast forward to just a few years ago, 2012. Machine learning, I was actually once part of a Toronto startup that was built on machine learning, but the thing is that machine learning was kind of like trundling along, and then in 2012, these people came up with a breakthrough in using a technique called deep learning, which had actually been around for a while, but they just figured out how to use it. So when the people at GM are building their self-driving vehicles, they actually have a better time right now because thanks to deep learning, their software has a much better chance of processing the objects that the car's cameras pick up. The Godfather. And just last week, it was announced the creation of the Vector Institute here in Toronto to keep this going. So I hope that if you were skeptical about this and you didn't have a resounding yes as your answer, I hope maybe the chances are a little better now. But I do want to caution you about one thing. If you're going to do anything that's new or different, you will have to break from the pack. That's just the way it is. If you're going to just do the same thing as everyone else, think the same way as everyone else, sorry, you're really not going to do anything new and different. It's almost definitional. So I want to throw a couple of quotes at you. So I can tell you that it's worth it. If you do something, yeah, you might be influential, you might not be, but if you actually do something new, that you look around and you say, hey, nobody's done this before, maybe this is a new thing. Well, yeah, go ahead, go for it, and create. Because when you create something that's new, it's yours for the rest of your life. Thank you.
Questions?
Hi. Thanks very much. So why did these innovations come out of Toronto? What makes Toronto special?
It's not so much that we're special, it's that innovations happen all over the place. And a theme of some recent TechTO speakers, including Mike Zerbinas, was that you don't have to go down to California to do this stuff. You can do it right here. And in fact, you can do it, yeah, it's true, you are better off doing it in a tech cluster like Toronto and Waterloo than in just any old place. But you don't have to be down in the valley to do it. We've done a lot of stuff in Toronto and we will continue. There are an awful lot of trends that are going on. Because I was talking about machine learning earlier, I'll make one comment about it. I think it's both overrated and underrated. People think, oh, we're going to be talking to the machines all the time, and yes, we will, but for the machines to be able to talk intelligently to you will take longer, in general, will take longer than many people think. However, AI is huge in terms of what's under the hood. Behind the scenes, there's so much stuff that's just getting powered by machine learning, and this is transforming entire professions. So if you're going to medical school, do not go into radiology, because the computers can interpret an X-ray better than you can. Both. Different applications.
I've got a question here. Oops. Yeah.
Quick question, Rohan. Ted,
I did.
Thank you very much. So sometimes, they say we stand on the shoulders of giants. Now I think we stand on the shoulders of people who are willing to sink into the mud a bit and not be recognized. So I want to actually thank you for your contribution because you deserve it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted.
Not a question.
Yep. Can I go ahead? Yep.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just curious. So, what's the difference between DMZ and Velocity? Because I go to Waterloo as well. So, I'm just very curious. Do you go to Waterloo?
I did go to
Yeah.
Waterloo, yes.
So what makes DMZ different from Velocity? Because Velocity is our equivalent, I think.
I can't speak about velocity really because I just don't really know that much about it. I know it's great, but so is the DMZ. They're in different places. I'm sure there are important differences. I think velocity is maybe more of an accelerator than an incubator. Is that right?
Sort of, I think.
Okay, because
You could
that's
say
probably
that.
that's probably the answer. The DMZ is more of an incubator, and if velocity is more of an accelerator, then yeah, then if there's like a program with cohorts, things like that, then that would make an accelerator, and the DMZ is not.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.